What kind of people are we? I know you're weird. I'm weird. In fact, the whole world is made up of people who each carry their own unique weirdness. This is what makes the world such a wonderful place. But in the midst of all this weirdness, who are we really? My name's David Woodall with the United Church of Canada, the Emsdale Pastoral Charge. You know, it's your life. You can make it good or you can screw it up. It's your choice. What kind of people are we? You know, we're the kind of people who rush out to help our neighbors when their house is on fire, or to share a cup of sugar when the recipe calls for a surprise ingredient. We're the kind of people who are horrified when some neighbor runs down a family with a pickup truck because their clothes and their faith are different from us. We're the kind of people that gather and march and say, "Stop this hatred. In God's name, stop this hatred." We're the kind of people who do not allow falsehood and hate to be poured on any person, or allow our daughters and wives and mothers be targeted with some kind of sexual harassment or even worse. Paul partly answers this question, what kind of people are we? He said, "To set your mind on the Spirit is life and peace." So figure it out. Where you put your mind matters. Life and peace matters. The Spirit matters. Paul goes on to say, by grace we are alive, and this is the gift of God. We wouldn't be here, you see, except for this miracle of life. So please don't take your life for granted. Am I too bold to say that your life and my life is a gift of God? You might say, I don't believe in God. Well, big deal. People believe all sorts of things that aren't true. So you don't believe in God. Then consider your life a gift from Boogie Woogie, or some amazing interaction of sperm and cell, but don't discount the gift that this life is. Grow your life. Move it forward in healthy ways. What we do with our life matters. We can use it or misuse it, certainly, but the gift of freedom that is the icing on the gift of life allows us the ability to become everything that God created us to be. So live with a sense of grace and thankfulness. Life is not of your own doing, but what we do with this life is of our own doing. Be people full of hope. There are enough negative, self-centered people around to ruin a perfectly good day. Be people full of hope. There's a direct correlation between living and hope. There's a direct correlation between living a whole, healthy life and having a confident sense of hope. The two go hand in hand. You know, in many ways, hope defines us. We find hope in the here and now with each other, within relationships, within the quiet touch of the Spirit. Hope is pretty basic to life. When our present reality becomes so terrible and we so desperately look for hope, then sometimes we seek hope in the new life that will come. Beyond the river of death, we say, there lies a new world. Some people, the river people, gather on the banks waiting to cross. That is their only hope. And sometimes we are the river people. Slavery in the southern United States was so terrible that many of the spiritual songs arising out of that time spoke of hope across the river. When our present reality becomes so terrible that it appears there's no way out of the mess we are in, then sometimes we just freeze. We freeze ourselves in place, almost as if you're on the face of a cliff, rock climbing, but there's no way forward, no way back. Sometimes we are these cliff people. Hope is lost. We cling terrifyingly to the cliff and hope that we don't slip and fall into the chasm below. What kind of people are we? Hope defines the answer to that. We live forward or downward to our hope. Paul reflected on his life and his search for hope and faith and meaning. Paraphrasing his words, he said this: I have had many wonderful things in my life. All during my life I have been trying to get into a right relationship with God, but these wonderful things did not provide that. I tried to find a right relationship with God by strict adherence to the Jewish law, but I found the law in all its ways worse than useless to achieve that end. So I gave up trying to create a goodness of my own. I came to God in humble faith, as Jesus told me to do, and in the grace of God, I found the hope and the fellowship that I had sought for so long. The world of God is now here and now there. It happens in every event of compassion and love. It happens in every event of reconciliation and wholeness and caring and justice. The world of God is created in every event of hope, here and there. The world blossoms, here and there, like bursts of light and color, with sounds of joy. What kind of people are we? I thought about this question as I grapple with the discovery of so many unmarked graves of children surrounding residential schools. Am I responsible for my ancestors' actions? The answer to that is tempered by the reality of the lives of First Nations survivors of residential schools and their descendants. Because, as we well know, we know the terrible impact that my ancestors' attempted extermination of First Nations people have had over the following generations. So I'm not sure I bear responsibility for their action, but I do bear the cost and responsibility to bring the hurt and the pain forward, to create the space in which healing can occur, and to embrace each survivor and their descendants as my brother and my sister. We make our lives better when we can nurture some small piece of hope. And we cannot let hope elude us. If we do, it's as if we're frozen on the face of a cliff. You know, like I said, think about mountain climbing. Think about what it's like to find yourself on the face of a cliff where you can see no handholds and footholds again, and we can see no way back to the handhold and footholds behind. In my late teens, I was a counselor at Kenessary Camp. It was a United Church camp located on the shores of Lake Erie in Kent County. There were 30-foot-high clay cliffs all along the shores of that lake. I prided myself as being able to climb up any of them, scampering up them a bit like a mountain goat. Until the day I found myself 5 feet from the top, and there was no way to go forward, and no way to go backward. I was stuck. You know, we do one thing extraordinarily well in that circumstance. We freeze to the face of the cliff, clinging and clutching for dear life. Fixed and immobile, we become the cliff people. There is no hope, no handholds ahead, no footholds behind. We want no change in this situation. Now, the cliff is no place to stay, but there is nowhere else to go. And we discovered at that point that change and hope go hand in hand. But the only change we can see is the chasm vast and deep below us. Sometimes hope has disappeared. Sometimes our lives are like that. We can see no easy or clear way ahead. We can't return to life as we remembered it. We cannot find a way forward to get out of the mess we've got ourselves into. We are, if not safe and comfortable right now, at least we are alive, so long as we continue to cling to that cliff. Frozen to the face of the cliff that day at Kenessary Camp, I was not looking forward to much change. No way up, no way down. I was just stuck. From time to time, on the cliff at Kenessary, a camper would get stuck, and the best way to help them down was to join them on that cliff face, then gently and quietly coach them forward. Let's try the left hand 3 inches up. You've got the handhold. Now move your left foot just slightly down. Good. Way to go. You've got it. Another handhold, another foothold. Gently and quietly, inch by inch, you coach the person forward to new handholds and new footholds. Our scriptures for today, the Transfiguration story. It's the story of Jesus gently helping the disciples to find new handholds and new footholds in life. This was the middle of their remarkable journey with Jesus. Life was different now. The handholds were changing. The disciples were clinging, of course, to what they knew about life. That's what we do when change happens. They'd caught a glimpse of what was ahead. There was Jesus and Moses and Elijah, all of them together, glowing, and two of them were dead. What's going on here? Things have changed. The disciples were frightened, and they thought that they should put up shelters, because in the old world they knew how to make shelters. But they didn't know how to deal with glowing dead people. They did not know how to deal with this new change. They were afraid to go forward, but they knew they were unable to go back. You remember after Jesus died, they all went back to fishing, and then Jesus called them in from the boats, from the old ways, and sent them out to share new handholds and new footholds with the rest of the world. Sometimes we cling to this brief frailty we call life. We cling and clutch so hard that we miss the thrill and the joy of simply being alive. We're so concerned about losing our life that we never really find it. When we find ourselves nearly frozen on the face of a cliff, we are gently and quietly coached forward, or we discover some person or group who will help us to find new handholds and new footholds, to discover new ways of hope. What kind of people are we? There is the life of clinging desperately to the side of the cliff, with all of its bizarre characteristics. And from time to time, each of us are those cliff people. And when that happens, God joins us on the cliff and moves us forward slowly, one handhold at a time. Sometimes we're the river people, and we postpone our hope to the next life beyond the river. Sometimes we're the flimsy people. We see no hope beyond the river, so we grasp for the fleeting flimsies of this life, the new car, the new job, the new house. You know how successful that is. Life itself invites us to move forward. We are beckoned to move forward, to embrace the change from the present reality to some new future. We are still doing this as we emerge from our pandemic. And talking about the pandemic, what kind of people are we when we hoard Canadian vaccines for ourselves while folks in Africa have barely even begun to receive vaccines? It's a disturbing question. Life has changed now for all of us. The question is, what kind of people are we? We're a little weird. We look for hope, sometimes in the right places, sometimes in the wrong places. Sometimes we're the river people, and sometimes we're the cliff people. And sometimes we are just great, and sometimes we're not. And that's what makes the world such a wonderful place. We rush out to help our neighbors when tornadoes hit, or their house is on fire, or to share a cup of sugar when the recipe calls for a surprise ingredient. We stand on the side of justice and love and tolerance. We march and we say, stop this hatred in the name of God, stop hating. What kind of people are we? We're the people that God loves. So live in the grace and the presence and the peace of God.